Shalom, shalom, everybody. Ariel Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, found online at www.KosherTorah.com. Well, we are together again for another interesting topic, which I hope that we're going to be able to dispel some myth and try to shed some light on some real serious issues with regards to our topic of dark side entities. The real forces of evil. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Are we dealing with psychological issues, physical issues, extraterrestrial issues? What's really going on? And this becomes a very, very important topic today because, gosh, it's not like you need me to tell you. Look at the social media today. We are literally inundated with tidal wave and tsunami after tsunami and tidal wave of all kinds of conspiracy theories. They're out to get us. Yes, they're behind the COVID-19 virus. They want to control us. They want to do this and they want to do that. And okay, let's put the brakes on all the conspiracy theories now. And let's try to look at some things realistically, rationally. Oh my goodness, can I even get away with that? I'm going to try. Now, let's understand something in a historical context. Ideas and a belief in parallel worlds and parallel universes and entities of all kinds, nothing new under the sun there, that's been going on since the most ancient of times. But now, we're all familiar with the concept of evil spirits, demons, and the like. Where do we find the first reference to that in the Bible? Go ahead, I'll let you pause for a second. Where do we find the first actual essence, the reference to demonic entities in the Bible? I should play the Jeopardy music while you're preparing your answers here. I'm going to tell you this. No, don't you dare point to me, the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Nowhere does it say anything other than it was a nachash. He was just doing his job. Right? Got cursed for it, but nowhere does it say he's the minion of Satan or the devil or anything of the kind. It doesn't. The Bible does not say that. Later interpretations of the Bible say that, but that's not what the Bible says. Where else? Where else do you want to point to in the Bible about these kinds of dark entities? Oh, don't you dare point to me in Isaiah, where it speaks about, the rising sun, in which it's been interpreted to be Lucifer. You know, that whole concept of interpreting Lucifer to be the fallen one, that has no historical Hebrew accurate foundation in the Bible at all. All of this is later stuff. Now, why is it even important for us to understand this? Because whatever is real is one thing, and whatever is perceived to be real is another thing. The problem is, whenever I'm going to refer to something that people perceive to be real, the normal response is going to be, well, then I guess it's not real. It's fake. It's a lie. That is not necessarily a proper correlation. Because believe it or not, we can create our own realities. Yeah, I think we know that one by now, don't we? So therefore, even if there wasn't a real devil who duked it out with God before creation and swiped down a third of the angels from heaven and turned them into demons and established his own separate kingdom called hell, and he's out there duking it out with God for control of all the souls. Well, that is, of course, the Christian theology, doctrine, myth by a Jungian term. But I might add, that has absolutely no foundation in Judaism. We don't hold like that at all. But let me stop. Does it really matter what we believe or not believe? Think about it. If you believe in something and I don't. Does my doubt make your belief any less legitimate? If I believe in something that you don't, does your lack of faith or belief make mine any less legitimate? The answer, obviously, is no. Now, here's a question. Maybe many of you have seen in the media over many, many years, mostly so with members of the Christian faith, in which they are absolutely convinced that they see the image of Yeshu, Jesus, in all kinds of things, from clouds in the sky to the burning marks of toast that come out of the toaster. They're convinced. For them, this is a sign of faith. It reinforces something of their beliefs. Now, you and I, when we look at the clouds, I might not see that same image. I might not see it in my piece of toast. I might just put some butter on it and say hamotzi and eat it. How sacrilegious am I? Perception. Remember the whole thing about quantum physics. And this is important to understand because before I can start to tell you about real entities, we have to deal with the perception of entities because this is very, very important to understand. Every culture, especially the more ancient the culture, has layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of beliefs. And those beliefs come from where? Mind. What is mind? Well, brainwaves. Brainwaves go out there and they will imbue a place or an item with the impressions of that belief. And if you have layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon millions and millions and millions projecting mind thought into a place, it transforms the energetic nature of that place or that thing. So, for example, I got a little blankie here. This means nothing. I just picked this up at Walmart today to kind of clean my desk. However, if I said to you, this is the sacred cloth. Yes, it was held by the sacred holy rabbi. And I blow my nose, has the sacred snot in it. Now it's a religious relic. And for hundreds of people, all my in-quote Hasidim, which I don't have, and thank God for that, they all worship my holy handkerchief now. And they put it on as a relic. And century after century after century, the fact that it degrades and whatever, it is imbued with all kinds of faith and belief. This little old rag that I bought for $1 today in Walmart with my make-believe snot in it, all of a sudden is imbued with psychic energy and can do powerful things. Oh no? Where am I making this stuff up from? How about the Bible? You remember the famous story, the prophets with Eliyahu Hanavi and Elisha? Remember when the child died and they brought the mantle and the staff, they laid it by the child to see if it was going to raise him from the dead? How about when Elisha, his bones, he was dead and it touched his bones and it brought the guy back to life? Energy, energy, energy. The entire reality of our existence is energy. This is the foundation of our reality. Period. Now, with that being said, what is the nature of all that's around us? Well, let me take a step back. Are there really entities out there out to get us? Get us for what? This is the thing. If we want to say that there are real evil entities out there, they want to control the world. Okay, Gesundheit. They want to control the world, right? So, okay, let's, for argument's sake, say now that the evil entities, they take over the whole world. Fine. Now the world is theirs. Fine. What are they going to do with it? Well, they're going to control it. Good. What kind of control do they want? All right. They want us all to be their slaves. Mazel tov. Fine. You got now 8 billion slaves. What are you doing with 8 billion slaves? Well, we've got too many. We're going to wipe them out and knock them down to just 1 million. Fine. You got 1 million slaves. What are you doing with them? Well, we're going to build things. What are you building, like cities for Pharaoh? We have to build new pyramids? We're building statues? Really? I mean, are these entities that are so smart enough that they can control mankind and humanity to bring about some ultimate goal? That's all they want is what, to build statues of themselves? You know something? That doesn't sound like a sophisticated, advanced entity to me. Now, I know what many of you are going to say. That's the power of the devil. And they want to take control of the world from God. And they can ensnare our souls. And I'm going to sit there and twiddle my thumb, my fingers like this. And I'm going to remind you, but that is the Christian story. That's not the Jewish story. That's not the Islamic, Hindu, Buddhist, or any of the other stories. Yeah, well, they're all lies, and only this story is true. Who says? They do. And what is the power, in quote, of them? Okay, number one, let's again step back from the stories. Are there other indigenous entities upon our earth that are intelligent? Well, I've had my own visionary experiences, many of which I've written about in my books and taught in my courses. And those are my opinions. My opinions are mine, your opinions are yours, we all have opinions. But let's talk about what Judaism as a religion and the books, the Zohar and the Kabbalah, teach about these things. Even before Kabbalah mysticism, there was believed to be an indigenous race of intelligent beings upon this earth called Shedim. Now, Shedim are usually translated as being demons, but do not interpret that within a Christian context. They are not fallen angels who rebelled against God and signed up with Satan to create a comparative kingdom to duke it out with God. All right, this is not the Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal duking it out for control here. No, that's our modern embellishments of a myth. Shedim, we know a lot about them in our ancient traditions, as well as the Islamic traditions. The Christians are the one who try to put a big X through everything and make it all dark and evil. But the other traditions are not as black and white, if you will. In our tradition, we have always known that there are entities out there. And I'm not going to get into the Azazel issue with Yom Kippur. God never sent a sacrifice to Azazel. It was a sacrifice to Hashem, and there's a whole different story there. But according to our understanding, the ancient legend says that, using the metaphors, before the initial cosmic Sabbath began, there was another race created called these Shedim, and Sabbath came, and their creation got stuck, and they were half created and unhalf created. And later language expresses that their physical energy, or their physical form, yes, physical, is made of the elements of fire and air, as opposed to fire, air, water, and earth, physical, like us. These entities are said to live in the air, and they very well might be the orbs that everybody sees floating around, interpreting them to be some kind of a technological machine. But that's not the only understanding of these entities. According to many of our older teachings, there were races of intelligent physical entities upon our earth who were here long before we were, from the previous Shemitah, as we refer to it, and with everything that happened to get us into this Shemitah. Most of them, some of them went to the stars according to tradition, some went to a parallel universe, some went into hollow earth. And these are the traditions that I'm sharing with you now. These are traditions. This is what's being taught. And you might say, well, there is no such thing, or I disagree. Disagree all you want. Believe whatever you want. I'm sharing with you what the traditions say. That I can absolutely validate by showing you in the books, this is what's written. If you want to accept it or reject it, it's your choice. But at least from an academic point of view, know what the books say. How's that? Okay? So this way we're on the up and up about what we're discussing. So, there's a very curious section of Talmud. And I've taught this in my Ein Yaakov course, and I'm almost certain that I have the audio class of this on my YouTube channel, so you can go look this up. Wherein which, when King Solomon was commanded by God, of course, to build a holy temple in Jerusalem, well, the language in the Gemara says that, as we know, the law of the Torah is you cannot cut bricks with any kind of a tool, because that makes them disqualified for the temple. How do you make bricks and slice them into shape? Well, King Solomon needed some ancient technology called the shamir. The shamir is said to be a little worm. You put it on the brick and it slices it in half. Many people today interpret this to be some kind of a laser beam. Some even embellish this even further to say that King Solomon needed technology and support from those who had this technology. And those who had this technology were supposedly these pre-Adamic guys who lived in inner earth. And they are the Shedim. Their head, their king, was Ashmodai. And Ashmodai was not this evil, bad guy. He's not the devil or anything of the kind. And according to the Gemara, it says that King Solomon sent Ben Yehoyada, who was his head of the bodyguard, with the holy seal, and said to Ashmodai, the king of Jerusalem needs your assistance. Surrender the shamir. And there's a whole bunch of stories that Ashmodai came, took Solomon's place, and had relations with all his wives, and all this interesting stories. But ultimately, curiously, this was not an entity of fire and air. It was a physical entity. And somehow, somewhere, he got involved. There is even discussion, more elaborated discussion, that there were sections of the Holy Temple underneath the Temple Mount that needed to be built, but yet needed to be private and secret from humanity. And the only ones who could build those were the Shedim. Now, if these are Shedim, then if they're made out of air, how do you put them into construction? Constructions work. So obviously there must have been some physicality. And indeed, one of our old Midrashim called the Avot de Rabbi Natan, which elaborates on the topic of these Shedim, states that, yeah, they are like angels, but yet they're like human beings. Like angels, they can fly, they can be invisible, and they can have some experience 30 days in advance to know the future because of, energy. But like human beings, these guys eat physically, drink physically, sexually procreate, and they die. So yeah, Ashmodai was the king way back when. King of the demons, he's dead. And his children have inherited his throne according to the legends. So, these entities are not necessarily just gaseous. They're physical. Now, this gets very interesting, because we can go back into the 1300s and read in the writings of Rabbi Menachem Tzioni in his books Tzifuni Tzioni and Tzioni on the Torah, and he speaks about these Shedim. And he says, just to throw in, also Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid and the Hasidei Ashkenaz, which was the real school of the secrets of the Torah before the Zohar arose, these guys had a lot of interactions with these entities who would often come and sexually procreate with human beings, have children, and these demonic or Shedim, that's right, the word today is hybrid children. They were very, very much esteemed in the Shedim world, because the more and more they became human, the higher and higher they were. So going back again to the old Midrash that they were half created at Bein HaShamashot, right before the Sabbath, well, this is how they, in quote, rectified themselves, that by interacting with human beings, they become more and more human. So you can even go on to websites like Sefaria.org, which has all the Hebrew books. Go look up an old Hebrew text called Kav Hayashar, and I believe it's in chapters 68 and 69 in English, you should know. It'll tell you the story of a certain town in Europe, in which they had actual Shedim who were living in a house, and they refused to budge. And the rabbi actually took them into a bet din. Now you could hear voices in the bet din, according to the story, and they set out their claim. Hey, our mom had relations with this guy. We're his legitimate heirs. And even though he doesn't have any human children, we're his Shedim children, and we demand our rights. This is how the story goes. Now, you might say, okay, this is all lovely legend or stupid nonsense, depending on your point of view. But here's where things get interesting. In modern times, starting with the story of Barney Hill, we have alien abductions. And what are the aliens doing when they abduct you? Right? They're not putting things to your brain to see what your thoughts are. They're performing what? Sexual activity? What the heck? What are these guys up to? Right? They're having interbreeding programs. You can go and look. See books like We're Not Alone by Jacobs and the like, in which, through hypnosis, he claims that he has been able to bring up memories, and that in itself is a very problematic source of validity there, and says that all these people have been involved with all this kind of weirdo activity that sounds like it comes out of Kav Yashar, Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid, and Rabbi Menachem Tzuni from, almost a millennia ago. So, gee whiz, the wise words of King Solomon, Ein kol hadash tachat hashemesh. There's nothing new under the sun. Something's going on. Something definitely is going on. Who are these hybrids and what are they there for? Well, we can go into modern literature, UFO related, remote viewing related, and you will find all kinds of stories about these entities desperate to integrate themselves into human society. And the biggest problem that they have is understanding human emotions. Now, if they are a hybrid species and they are Shedim, then their vibrational frequency would be different from ours. Remember, vibrations is energy. Energy is both emotional and intellectual. And these, in quote, hybrids are supposedly super psychic. They have the power to talk to you psychically. Now, this is something that we do know, because whenever one from any religious or spiritual tradition around the world gets involved with stuff and interacts with entities, you will see and interact with entities of all kinds. But their actual appearance seems to be this energetic form that we discussed. But yet when they interact with you or communicate with you, it's a telepathic communication, which always enables the entity to take the form of that which the individual is either looking to see or willing to see. In most cases, when we have religious experiences, you will always see an individual is going to have a revelation of some kind of a religious figure within the context of their own cultural experience. So, for example, no connotations here. You have, for example, Joseph Smith, who founded the faith of, the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. He believed he saw an angel called Moroni. And Moroni looked just like he would interpret an angel to look like, right? It didn't have dark skin. It wasn't, like a cherub. It looked like a, blonde hair, blue-eyed kind of guy. That's what Joseph Smith saw. Now, go back into places like Fatima, where you have the Catholic children. They saw Mary, and they see it within a context of their culture. Every mind perceives these kinds of experiences within the cultural context of one's own being. This is this is actually a halakha from Maimonides in the Laws of the Foundations of Torah, that a prophet sees within the context of their own personal experience. So whenever I hear of somebody having a near-death experience, out-of-body experience, and of course, if it's an evangelical here in the United States, they see a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus. And if it's a Catholic, most likely from a European country, they will see the Virgin Mary. And Hindus are going to see Krishna, and Buddhists are going to see Buddha, and many of the Taoists will see the immortals, and Native Americans will see, spirits within the context of their culture. Jews, we will see Eliyahu Hanavi, or one of the souls of the great Tzaddikim, etc. Are there so many realities? No. We must understand the psychological nature of this type of kli, or vessel of the mind. So that is the subjective expression of a greater objective reality, which is actually there. So this is the point. Let's say, for example, we want to use a Ouija board. You do know what a Ouija board is, right? It's a Milton Bradley, which is the toy company. It's a toy. All right? There is no ancient source to this mystical thing. It was a creation of somebody who's looking to make money. You know where the words Ouija comes from? Oui is French. Oui, yes. Right? It was actually completely contrived, made up completely, just as a selling tool like a toy. It's no different from Monopoly or any of these other games. But yet, you could see movies today, and people will tell you about the scary experiences that they have at the Ouija. Ouija is actually Ouija. Ya. It was Ouija. It was like yes and yes from French and German. That's where you go look up the history of this stuff. I don't make this stuff up. But yet, I have known people who have had actual curious experiences with a Ouija board. I remember way back in the day, years and years ago, a college student. It's actually a friend of my family. And they were performing a reading with the Ouija board, and they think they actually connected with something. And the person who was doing this says, I'm Jewish, and I have a friend here who knows the rabbi, and he's got power. Now, they said that the Ouija board then spelled out the word Kabbalah and said, ha. And they got really freaked out. Did that really happen? Well, I'm not going to give you a mystical answer, but I will tell you it could happen. Because the power of the psyche, yes, can and does have an influence. It says it channels the subconscious, somebody. Robert says that here in text. That's true. But remember I said that I can imbue the holy hanky here with energy and make it real? I'm not the first one to have done that. People have been doing this with sacred icons throughout all of history. And when you embrace a sacred icon, it is imbued with the power of the mindset of what could be millions. And by embracing that, you're tapping into that energy. That energy taps into you and gives you like a real zets. Does the object have actual energy? No. I mean, it's a towel, it's a napkin, it's a piece of cloth. But because this is now holy, because it's got the holy snot in it, now it's holy. And all my Hasidim, which I don't have, I always have to say that, all right? Now they're going to venerate the holy snot, etc. and so on. One of the Monty Python movies that I always thought was so humorous, some considered sacrilegious, was The Life of Brian, in which they made a parody of the guy who was born in the manger right next to Yeshu and all of his life. And they did that's a very pointed humor there, which I thought was very well taken. And they had scenes like people who create icons and the like. Now, Don't think icons are powerless. On the contrary, they are as powerful as what you can put into it. One of the most powerful icons in recent history, you go look this up in case you don't know it, were the icons that were tracked down and taken by the Nazis in World War II. Look at the power of the Nazi movement. Now, granted, you might have had what we can call the, in quote, perfect storm, which enabled the National Socialist movement to grow in Germany. But it didn't come out of nowhere. It was built on all of these occultic foundations that we've been talking about in previous lessons. And because people believed in these things, they imbued them with power and made them real. That's the power. How many of you ever heard of the spear of destiny? Right? It is said that the one who holds the spear will control the world. And what is the spear? It is allegedly the spear used by the Roman that pierced the side of Yeshu upon the cross, and the holy blood of Yeshu is upon it, and he who controls it will control the world. It's a lovely story. The problem is, Yeshu probably, according to the original Jewish, the original Nazarene, the original Quranic story, probably, sorry Christian guys, I know you're going to disagree, Yeshu probably wasn't on the cross, probably was all a myth. You Schoenfeld, the Passover plot, Brandon's book, Jesus and the Zealots, that's probably more the historical reality. So there really isn't any blood of Yeshu. There really isn't any spear. Dramatic pause here. But that doesn't make it any less real, does it? Because people believe it's real. People believe it's the blood of Yeshu. People believe it has power. Prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. This is the power of faith. What we put our faith into is what enables something to become strong. Now, this is vital for us to understand today. Somebody's asking, should you include the Ark of the Covenant? No. No. And why? Because like the biblical story teaches us, the glory of God, the energetic field, which we call the presence of God, actually imbued the ark. And you could say, well, it's symbolic, it was metaphorical, it was psychological. Well, that doesn't explain how when Nadav and Avihu approached, they were electrocuted and killed. Archetypes in psychology are one thing, but they don't electrocute you and strike you dead. So it's something just a little bit more than that. All right? This is the realities. But remember, the ark is gone. We don't have an ark today. All we have today are stories and ideas and beliefs. But stories and ideas and beliefs have power. And I'm going to share with you one right now. Do you know what's one of the greatest symbols of power in our world today? The concept of freedom. There were a true and sincere secret society of, I guess we'll call them God-fearing men, who had a dream of creating a new world order. And they conspired together, and they concocted a political plan to gain control. And that control caused a war, but they won that war. And they were enabled to therefore unleash what we now know was their mystical plan for a new world order. Sorry, I'm not talking about the devil or the Antichrist. I'm talking about Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and the founding fathers of the United States of America, who were all Masons. Now, I have an article. You can go online, Kosher Torah, and you'll see, I think it's called Kabbalah, Masons, and the Founding of America. I wrote this a long, long time ago, in which I show that the founding fathers of the United States were not only Masonic, they were, by their own terms, Noahides. That's what they called themselves. And as such, they understood many of the mystical Torah Kabbalistic traditions, which later became embraced within the Masonic movement. And a lot of Masonic symbolisms you will find in the foundation of the United States. Why do you think we have 13 founding states? Could have had 12, could have had 14. 13 is a numerical importance in Judaism. It's Echad, one. How many of you have ever seen the Jewish star, the six-pointed Jewish star, on the back of the United States $1 bill? You've never seen it, have you? Go check it out. Go read that essay that I penned there. And I quoted all these interesting and curious sources. Yeah, there really, really was a real secret society with a plan. And here we are again today with all kinds of talk. You know, I look at all of the talk that's going on now. What are the big popular conspiracy theories today? The Cobit Virus has been out there for years and years, was developed, and it's controlling so that it can be used today as a tool to control us and take over all of our rights. And again, enslave us. That's the theory. And of course, the 5G towers, they're all part of this for controlling our minds. And they want to give you a vaccine that's going to have a tracer in it. And all of this crazy talk. What is going on? Do you really believe all of this stuff? If you listen to it, yes, I do believe it. Number one, obviously, there's no proof for any of it. It's irrational. It's illogical. And if you and I were to sit down together with the power to control the world with our own personal secret cabal, we would come up with a plan a hell of a lot better than that. But people today are afraid. They want to believe, and they imbue energy upon things to make it real. Well, according to our traditions and teachings, there really are hybrid beings out there. They really have an agenda all their own. Are they interacting with humanity with the intent to take over the human race? Why? Well, they want to kill us all. Why? What's the purpose? So they can take over the world. Well, you know something? You got billions and billions of human souls. Let's, for argument's sake, say we kill them. What happened? Do you know what happens to all those souls? They reincarnate according to our beliefs. They come back. You didn't accomplish anything. What's the big deal? So you see, by shining some light onto these ideas and beliefs, we see that they're not as valid or worthy of our fear as people think. Now, let's go and elaborate more. Remember we talked about the hollow earth? Well, according to our traditions, you'll find this in the book Hesed Avraham of Rabbi Avraham Asulai. The original Garden of Eden is in inner earth. Adam and Eve from inner earth. The Garden of Eden is in inner earth. All of this stuff was happening in inner earth. And we believe that all humanity came out of actually inner earth. The Hopi Native Americans also have that same tradition. So we're not the only ones who believe this. So in inner earth, and there's an interesting midrash that says, you know, remember Cain and Abel? They were born in inner earth as well. And after Cain kills Abel, it said that Adam and Eve separated from one another. Ancient tradition says that for 130 years until Seth was born, that each one copulated with the Shedim who were there. And Adam had many Shedot wives, and Eve had many Shedim husbands. But these are not fallen angels. They're not like the little red guys with horns and pitchforks and nonsense. What were they? According to our understanding, they were the pre-Adamic remnants. And many of them might not have been fully Homo sapiens sapien. So according to our legends and beliefs, where in which it says that Adam and Eve both copulated with other humanoid species, which could have led to hybrid half human, half reptilian, half insectoid. So the Hesed LaAvraham brings down traditions of the centaur, remember, half human, half horse, and brings this down as some kind of an actual reality as opposed to just some symbolic myth. Is it true? Well, in all due respect, in my many, many travels, psychically and physically, I've never personally met a real centaur. So I can't say. If I ever meet a real centaur, I will let you know. As you know, according to our traditions, the skins that covered the Ark of the Covenant came from an animal, the Bible says, called a tachash. And the Gemara defines it as an animal with a single horn. And many interpret that to have been a unicorn. Well, in all due respect, maybe people take a little bit of their drugs and they see unicorns flying around. Personally, I've never seen one. Now, somebody is asking a question, is there a tie to the book of Enoch here? And the answer, yes, of course there is. Now, I didn't yet discuss the real fallen angels. Who are they? What are they? Well, this is our story. We know in the book of Daniel, chapter 4, it speaks of a group called the Watchers, the Irin. Who are they? Why are they there? Well, the book of Enoch, which is more or less ballpark from around the time of the book of Daniel, give or take a century or so, the story goes that way back when, in the days before the flood, when the pre-Adamic and post-Adamic, everybody used to get along just fine. The extraterrestrials, the inner earth, everybody on the earth. This is in the process prior to the shifting of the Shemitah, before the shift was complete. All right? Things were different. We all know that. You read the stories in the Bible. Things got really messed up. Why? Accordingly, this is from the book of Enoch, and I have classes on this online as well. They supposedly wanted, actually, with good intent, to help correct the ways of humanity. So, allegedly, 120 of them come down from heaven, and they're going to now help humanity. According to Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik, quoting a 9th century text from a Rabbi Yehuda, these were actually humanoid extraterrestrials. That's his own words, not mine. So that's obviously how they're able to physically copulate. Now, if they're not of this earth, who were they? It is believed that they were these pre-Adamics who we said went to the stars. Well, they came back down here to help the younger race. Apparently, there were some earth changes and a whole bunch of fun stuff that shifted us from the epoch of the first Shemitah to our present. How else do you think, or why else do you think they would find human women attractive? Now, we all know the history of humanity. Has there ever been a conquering race anywhere on this planet that went to the conquered race and didn't find beautiful women there and took them as wives and whatever else? It happens all the time. I mean, it's unfortunately or fortunate, human nature. This is what and how we interpret Genesis 6. And they gave rise to hybrids. But these hybrids were still Homo sapiens sapien. They still looked like us. They weren't reptilian. And you know what frustrates me? You'll forgive me. I'm going to use the real language. It pisses me off when I see these individuals, and I'll bite my tongue here, who say, yes, they're reptilians, and there are people out there who are secret reptiles, and we could open our skin like in the movie, the television show V. We have the forked tongue. Take a look at my tongue. I did this before, right? Sorry, I'm not a reptilian. All right, don't tell me Jews are reptilians. The Queen of England is a reptilian, and they drink human blood. I don't drink human blood. Ugh, disgusting. It's forbidden from the Torah. In spite of the fact that Jews have always been accused of drinking Christian blood. You know, that whole blood libel nonsense? It's so stupid. But unfortunately, to this very day, people do believe stupid stuff because they don't think. So, I have a question here. My opinion is the DNA from these creatures still resides in some of us today. Probably. Very likely so. But here's the interesting question. What is it? How would you identify it? Well, we would identify it as extraterrestrial. How do you even know what extraterrestrial DNA is? Right? Because it's going to give you 3 heads and make you lizard looking? Come on. I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff in DNA. I'm certainly no, geneticist. I could talk about this stuff. But, I mean, yeah, I'll acknowledge if this story is historically literal, then yeah, I will extrapolate from that and say it's possible. But that's neither here nor there. You know why? Because there are people who believe it so. And because they believe it to be so, they run with this and make it real. So you have real groups out there. Not the Masons. They're not trying to take over the world. The Illuminati is a myth. Was there an Illuminati? Yes. And I actually know a wealthy businessman in Europe now who is financing the translation of the original author. I forgot the guy's name. The author of the Illuminati literature. He has a long-term project to make it translated into English and French from the old German. So that's something, to look forward for in the scholarly positions. But secret societies. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of weirdos out there to this very day. There are people who will claim that they are the secret descendants of the Nephilim. Yeah. And there are people who really have power. And I'm talking political power. Now, remember the old Gnostic teaching way back from the 2nd century? It's regurgitated itself in Catharism. It's regurgitated itself in Shabbati. So it's regurgitated itself in all kinds of modern forms that pretty much say the God of the Bible is the bad guy devil, and the devil of the Bible is really the good guy God. They flip things around. So when they're saying, all hail the devil, all hail this, right? For them, they think they're doing good. But in that mentality, they embrace and adopt all kinds of crazy ideas and agendas. Secret societies, weirdo groups. Now, these are real. Some of which we know today very popularly, such as the Skull and Bones Society from one of the colleges, where which presidents have come out of. Now, what are they really doing? Are they controlling the world? Again, let's, for argument's sake, say, Mazel Tov, you're controlling the world. Now you're in control. What are you going to do with it? If, for example, you say, I only wish I was a billionaire, Mazel Tov. We'll play around with some numbers and put $1 billion into your bank account. Now what? What are you going to do with it? You're going to buy all kinds of crazy stuff. Where's your plan for controlling the world? We embrace so much fantasy and myth that we lose discernment between what is real and what is fake. And that, I think, is the greatest smokescreen that really clouds our vision from seeing the truth. Are there really secret societies today with agendas? Absolutely. That shouldn't surprise anybody. Is there really a single organization behind the scenes controlling all life on Earth? Yeah, I think so. Do they meet in Switzerland? The Bilderbergs, the Illuminati, the Jews, the Zionists. Oh, God. Pray God the Zionists never control anything. You know how Israel is? How it's so conflicted. If the Zionists, I think the world would blow up. Thank God there's no truth to those myths. But in reality, the Bible, remember the Watchers? Remember those angels who fell? They came down to earth. They took the daughters. What happened to them? According to our legends, God punished them. Book of Enoch says they were locked away. But other legends say that God's punishment to them was, you came down to earth to fix something, you made things worse, so guess what? I'm going to keep you there to finish the job. You guys are now in control of the earth. You are the angels of the earth. Each one of you has an assignment to guide certain parts of the planet. In our Torah tradition, we call this the heavenly Sanhedrin. All right? These are the angels. And we find a reference to this even in the Bible. Very famous story in the book of Daniel. You might remember this story, where in which Daniel is praying to God, give me an answer to prayer. God sends the angel Gabriel to Daniel. And what happens? The angel Gabriel gets stuck at the border of Persia, where Daniel was living. And the angel of Persia didn't allow Gabriel entry. He says you have to be isolated for 14 days to make sure you don't have the angelic version of the Cobit Virus. And the angel, what's going on? Angels are blocking. Angels, what is this, politics? I thought we're dealing with the holy angels. Michael has to come down, they're yelling and screaming. It sounds like something that would happen in the public marketplace in one of the Israeli neighborhoods, like the Shuk and Mahne Yehuda, people yelling back and forth. La, 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 la. That's what's going on between angels. Yeah, these entities are not as high and sublime and holy as we might think. They have their own agendas. The Hesed LaAvraham states that these entities are of higher consciousness than us, and they imbue their power and will upon entire segments of humanity. They can blind our sights. And as such, they fight with one another, like bucking rams, is what the Hesed LaAvraham calls them. And they fight with each other. I've written about this. I've translated this stuff. It's on my YouTube channel. I think has some of the audios on this. Go check them out. And if you look today and you recognize that unconscious or subconscious influence which just seems to be egging you on, you have to stop and pause. What the heck is going on here? The last time we saw this in such overt power was Nazism in Germany. It literally, like I said, like a tidal wave, it took over. It literally hypnotized the nation. Now remember, good old Schicklgruber there, good old Uncle Adolf, he was just a single guy. All right? Yes, he was adept in the occult arts, and he practiced them. But in and of himself, he had no power. But he tapped into a power, and that power, like a wave, went over the German people. And when he was gone and all that wave went away, and literally an entire new generation of Germans rose up post-World War II, who became the best and closest friend to the Jewish people, many of whom went to Israel and converted to Judaism. You had people who, children of Nazis, ending up in Israel, converting, becoming Orthodox Jews with their own children, and they would tell their children, yeah, your grandparents were in the Nazi Waffen-SS. But this is nothing new under the sun. We read even in the Gemara that Sisera, who was one of the evil generals in biblical times, his descendants became Jewish. We say that even Haman, even his descendants became Jewish. Weirdo stuff goes on. So understand this. Whether or not there is a human component of controlling the world, you know what? There's an angelic component to it, and it's directed by God. I wrote about this in my book, Aliens, Angels, and Demons. I'm not afraid of Big Brother. I'm not afraid of them coming and knocking on my door in the middle of the night. A Jew out. What are they going to come after me? I'm a nobody. I'm a nothing. Who cares? Right? If they come knocking on my door, I'm honored that I had somebody's attention. Wow. Somebody's noticed me. How cool that is. As a matter of fact, they take me out and shoot me, whatever. But again, to get serious, we have so many fears that are illegitimate. Are there real Shedim? We believe there are. Are there real hybrid races? We believe they are. Go find this online. 1666, I think, is the year it was written. A woman named Margaret Cavendish, a novel called The Blazing World. She claims it's all a story that she wrote about inner Earth and the hybrid species down there and the like. When I read that, I scratched my head and said, gee whiz, that's a real kind of like accurate novel. She certainly had information to a lot of things. Okay, go see it. Check it out for yourself. And for all of us today, oh, I forgot. How could I forget? Let's talk about Roswell and our little gray guys. These guys who come into the middle of the night, they walk through your walls, and they're sexually experimenting. Who the heck are they? Well, remember those little gray guys, 4 foot talls, one with the big bulging eyes, right? They're not. Oh, by the way, the flying saucer like Roswell was not in the round shape. It was more like the what do they call that? Like the flying wing, like the kind of stuff like the technology that we have today, like the B-2 bomber and all the rest of that stuff. That's what they were flying. They were not flying extraterrestrial craft. They were flying local craft, we believe, from inner Earth, because the old stories say that there are either wormhole vortexes, the likes of which we've discussed in previous lessons, or actual openings physically somewhere in the New Mexico area, supposedly everywhere, so I don't know. And the Zohar talks about them. It talks about these levels of the inner Earth. If you're interested, you can go. I've never seen it in English. I've never even translated it. In the section, the addendum of the Zohar, called the Hashmatut, or the other, the additional sections, volume 1, I think it's 253b, if I'm not mistaken. Man, I'm quoting stuff off the top of my head because I'm playing rabbi here. Speaks about all the levels of inner Earth, and in the 4th level, it's called Nishaya. And the Nishayas are describing people who live there, these little gray guys. So yeah, we know who the little grays are, they're Nishaya. And what's their relationship with the fallen angels and the hybrids and all that? You know, I don't know. But they're there. And according, curiously, to all the understandings, is one of the things that, again, it kind of like, as we say in the Gemara, Salka Datach, it exposes who they are. Allegedly at Roswell, one of the entities, little gray guys, he lived for a while, and he was telepathically chatty with this military woman. What is it called? The Alien Interview or something? It's a public domain PDF out there. And when I got it, I looked at it and I said, okay, my first guess, I said, I know there's going to be some weirdo stuff in here. And I was right. I looked in it, and right away, the little gray guy is saying, yes, I am from outer space, and I belong to the Dominion. We've controlled the universe forever, but there's the evil empire out there, and that evil empire is not your friend. Oh, by the way, those evil empire guys, they deceive you humans all the time. And when Moses, he left Egypt with the slaves, right? He was deceived by one of the evil empire minions who lied to him at Mount Sinai and make him look like that was a god. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? Like that old teachings that was dating back from the 2nd century and is still alive to this day. Here again we have the myth. God's the devil and the devil is God. Do you have people believe that? I'm sure you do. Are they some kind of a secret cabal out there? I'm sure they are. And so what? Well, they're going to take control. Yeah, but what do you think they're going to do? If anything, all they want to do is create the reality of the mythology of their beliefs, which are not real. They claim that they want to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem and put their man in the, in quote, Antichrist. And he's going to put his little chip into your arm or into your forehead with the number 666. Whatever. This is Christian stories. This is Christian myth, right? This is not part of our mythos. But as long as people believe in this and they succumb to the archetype and the subconscious influence of these ideas and beliefs, then it makes them real. And that's the problem. We believe all this stuff. Are there really anti-Semites in the world who want to kill all the Jews? Oh, that I'm sure. Were there Nazi survivors from World War II who are probably still around today hoping to create a Fourth Reich and probably take over the world and kill all the Jews? I'm sure they're there too. And I'm sure there are secret cabals of Christians who want to make the world evangelical, secret cabals of Catholics who want to make the world Catholic, and secret cabals of this who want this, and secret cabals of that who want that. All I see when I look at the world today, bills are getting paid. Somehow or another, we're going to get through this COVID virus stuff. We're going to move forward. Yes, this is a pivotal time in human history, just like 9/11 was. Was that a conspiracy too? A lot of people say a lot of things. And there's probably more to it than what we know, just like with the Kennedy assassination. Oh well. But you know something? That's not my concern. I'm no prophet messiah or anything. All right? What am I going to do? I'm not going to take on the New World Order. They're not interested in me. In all due respect, sorry guys, I'm not interested in them either. All right? My job is real simple. I'm a human. You see here? You see my office? I'm a one-guy normal person. You see, I don't have big organizations. We don't have money or anything of the kind. It's just little old me. And all I want to do is share with you the old stuff so that you can learn realistic, practical experience from the altered traditions. That's what all of our courses are about. That's what these classes are about. I just want you to see with your own eyes. The first rabbinic law of all, Pirkei Avot, Havu Matunim Badin. The first advice that the rabbis gave, be discerning in judgment. Be deliberating. Before you draw your conclusions, think things out. And just because you have all kinds of this one says this one says that, that's not evidence. Think it out. Look at it. I see, like you do, all these videos online. This video is going to be gone in a day. And this one's talking about the Cobit Virus and Bill Gates and Fauci and all the rest of this stuff. Okay? I go look at the author of these things and I look for their agendas. And what do you know? I find them. Surprise, surprise. And then I go and look for the facts. And sometimes the facts don't always add up in spite of what people think. Listen, you can believe whatever you want. You got everybody out there believing what they want, right? You got this secret society and this secret society and this one and that one. And all I'm concerned about, all I want, order out of chaos. It's a Masonic teaching, but it's based upon our Torah and tradition. All I want is peace. Like we say every day in our Kaddish prayer, O say shalom ben romav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. May he who makes peace in his high heavens make peace upon us. That's all I care about. I want you to wake up, experience the reality for yourselves, be discerning, be intelligent, be wise, be calm. We all have obstacles. You know what? Look for opportunity. Yes, our present circumstances are no less serious on a global level than 9/11 was. And things globally will change, just like they did after 9/11. And we either will have or won't have the freedoms that we do or we don't. But I'm not looking for the troops to be showing up at my door, taking me out in the middle of the night and shooting me in the woods. Oh, that happened in all too many countries all around the world, and many of you know that. Hasn't happened here in the United States, and I certainly pray that we never have a disintegration to that point. But you look at the political situation now, especially here in the United States, between left and right, conservative and liberal, and I get afraid with that. I don't like to see all of this strife and division. You know what? We all have different ideas. We all have different beliefs. Let's talk about it. Let's yell about it. But let's not go overboard to the point of a breakdown, which God forbid would lead to violence. That we definitely do not need. That can never be tolerated. So, I'm ran out of time. But you understand what I'm getting at here? Yeah, there are real negative entities out there, but the greatest negative entity is the ones that we create with our own minds. And it's not fantasy. It's not myth. We actually create it, just like a tool pod, just like a golem. Just like we can create, we can uncreate. So remember, you have power. Don't give these fears and these myths your power. Extract it out. Take it back. And that is how you fight all of the fearful, end quote, New World Order and the like. You contribute to the fear, you become part of it. You don't contribute it, you found your freedom. Freedom is the whole message of what Torah is all about. So I hope we covered some stuff tonight that'll give you pause, to think, and we'll take it from there. So thank you all again for listening. Ariel Bar Tzadok here, KosherTorah School, KosherTorah.com. Looking forward to seeing you guys. Hey, daily Sefer Yetzirah class. Just did, I think, lesson 43 this morning. We're discussing the 231 gates, some of the prophetic meditative stuff. Check it out. It's free on Facebook, my Patreon page, YouTube. Check out the other courses I got for you. You guys want to do something? Well, do it. Talk to you all soon.